Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you.
You are not going to believe what happened to me yesterday. But we have to start? Okay.
Oh, don't you know, it's the Bill Arnold Show. It's Bill.
And a warm welcome to the Bill Arnold Show. I'm so glad to have Pastor Mike Novotny with me the whole hour. We're going to talk to him about his brand new book, which just came out, I think, last week, called Newly Wed, a Christian guide for loving year one. Faith, communication, sex, finances, chores, in-laws, and more. It's a spectacular book. I've had the pleasure of reading it, and I'm going to probably ask Wyatt to chime in at some point today, too, because you're closer to this than probably anyone around here.
Yeah, about 2.5 years almost now. Me and my wife have been married, so.
Do you want to bring Mike on, or should you and I just talk?
Well, if we went through the trouble and said we want Mike, we better bring him on. I mean, I don't want him to feel left out.
Okay. Well, Mike, come on in. Come into the conversation there.
Oh, that was starting to feel like middle school lunch for a second. So thank you for inviting me to the table.
You were at the table by yourself, and we invited you over. So glad you could do this. Well, congratulations. Very cool.
Thanks, Bill. It's so great to be here. Excited about this book.
Yeah. And we can say right up front, this is incredibly great material for year one, but I would say it applies to year 20, year 30, year 40. There's a lot of good content in here that is going to work across the board. So I don't want anyone to just tune out because they go, well, I'm not in year one of my marriage, but maybe you know someone who is. I think I know 4 people right now in year one.
Yeah, that's a great point. Kind of the origin story of this book was that my wife and I, especially in the ministry, get to go to a lot of weddings, and we care about the couples, we care about their perfect day, but more than anything, as Christian people, we care about their connection to Jesus. And so whenever Kim and I are thinking about like a wedding gift, it was always like, well, do you get them something off the registry? Do you get them silverware? Do you get them more wine glasses? We just wanted something more deeply spiritual than that. And it kind of birthed this idea of what if we would put a resource in their hands now that the wedding's over, now that marriage is getting real, that would get them back to these really key conversations. They're going to start them off on the right stepping stones towards a great married life. So yeah, you don't have to be in year one of marriage to read this book. It's kind of my go-to wedding gift now for all the weddings I attend as I point more people to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And because this book is so well put together with incredible content, personal stories of couples that you have counseled and talked to, and you have so much great content in here. Not only do I want to open this discussion to questions from anyone listening, and you can ask Pastor Mike any question you have regarding this first year of marriage, and you can text your question over to 877-933-2484. So you want to start marriage the right way. What's the way to do it?
Ooh.
I'm coming out swinging.
Year one of my marriage, Kim and I have this little apartment not far from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And she makes this, I remember she made salmon for dinner. It was fantastic. I enjoyed every bite of it. And like a great new husband, I took my plate. I had cleaned it because I wanted to honor her cooking. And I took my dirty dish and I set it right next to the sink. And I'm not a smart man, but when I turned around thinking, well, that was kind of nice of me to clean up after myself, there was a look on her face that told me, I have made a grave error.
Uh-huh.
And what I found out was, I grew up in a home with a dad who worked a lot of hours as a banker, as an accountant. He was in real estate as well. My mom stayed home and she cooked and she cleaned up after every meal. So for over 20 years, what felt normal to me as like an expectation was you eat the food and you set your dish next to the sink. Now enter my wife. She grew up in a 2-income home. Her mom was a Christian school teacher who put in 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And so the rule in her house was if you cook, you don't touch a dish after the meal is over.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we sit down as a brand new couple, me having expectation A and Kim having expectation B And we found out very quickly what the mathematicians teach us, that A does not equal B. And I think that's really the heartbeat of this book. Is what I found out is when it comes to a budget or finances or communication or intimacy, or what are we going to do for Christmas? Your family, my family, are we starting a new tradition? That so much of it wasn't like, one spouse is right and one is wrong. It's just that we both brought kind of a differing expectation into the marriage. And unless we talk it through, unless we get it like out of our own heads and hearts and communicate through it, well, there's going to be this constant tension. But if we can set up some mutually agreed upon expectations, our marriage could be really great right from the start.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mike, let's talk a little bit about when the couple is not necessarily on the same spiritual page. And of course, that can be not only problematic, but troublesome down the road. But there might be, for illustration, a guy is fluent in Spanish, and the new wife maybe only knows a phrase of Spanish. Now, they're at completely different places in their understandings. And that can be true with spirituality. One of the people can be way advanced in their understanding of God's word, and the other one not so much. So you can start off this relationship just slightly imbalanced.
Yeah, that's so true. Kim and I got married on June 15th. I paused there, like I had to think about it. That's Kim, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I do remember our anniversary. It's June 15th, 2003. And I remember our pastor saying to picture this triangle with God at the apex and that with each of us on the bottom corners. And he said, Mike, if you get really close to God and you kind of like travel up the side of one side of that triangle and get really near to the top, but Kim stays on the bottom, you might be close to God, but you're going to be far from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. If she's passionate about her faith, but you aren't, like one of you might have this really close relationship with Jesus, but what you want to do is get closer to each other and closer to God. So I love your question. What happens when you feel like you're seeking God first, but the person you're with isn't? I got to say, as a pastor of 19 years, like I have seen this go really, really wrong and really, really right. I've seen people pulled away from Jesus because of the relationship they're in. And man, how many hundreds of people love the Lord Jesus Christ because of someone they fell in love with? And so I think there's a lot of potential here. It's not an ideal situation to not be on the same spiritual page, but my best advice would be try to figure out with a patient, kind of compassionate, listen first, understanding like what your spouse believes and why they believe it.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, some people are a little bit nervous about church, or they're not all in with Jesus for like 100 different reasons. Some people were scarred with an early church experience. Others are just ignorant and they weren't raised that way. Some people struggle with a certain doctrine. Others have just been through a painful season of life and they feel like God didn't answer their prayer. So I think one of the best things you could do if you're not on the same spiritual page is just figure out what page your spouse is on and how they got there. And I have a hunch that's going to open your eyes and open your mind to some ideas that might help them take that next step forward in their faith.
Mm-hmm. Mike, let's talk about expectations. That seems to be such a huge topic. And I'm going to, I think, ask Wyatt to join in here. Because if you have these questions about expectations and you would say, I expect my spouse to work at least how many hours a week and not more than how many hours a week. You talk about that in the book. It's like, well, if a person is a workaholic and it's emerging quickly, there's going to be some expectations and some unmet expectations. And when my spouse gets home from work, I expect them to, and you start filling in blanks. You start having expectations.
Yeah, that is so true. Once again, it's not right or wrong.
Yeah,
I
it's not
spoke
right
to
or wrong.
a professional Christian counselor who said, like, the two biggest problems she sees in her marriage counseling is, number one, you haven't yet verbalized your expectations. And believe it or not, your spouse can't read minds, like the Lord Jesus who knew people's thoughts. And she said, problem number two is that even if you verbalize your expectations, your assumption is you should agree with my expectations because my expectations are obviously right. And that's how she summarized all these years of counseling. Like so much of it does come down to that. Like, does your spouse know what you feel, what you think? And have you approached the conversation with enough humility to say, hey, maybe the way I'm approaching this isn't the only way to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we have to talk this through with humility, with patience, and with the fruit of the Spirit together.
Yeah, so maybe something as simple as I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and as I'm talking, you're still glancing down at your phone. So all of a sudden, I'm short-circuiting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That expectation. That's a big one these days too, right?
Oh,
What
yeah.
are what are the boundaries for fun? Can we have them at the dinner table? If I'm driving the car, should you be my phoneless co-pilot and navigator? Or is this
Yeah.
time to catch up on email and scroll Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I actually have a strong opinion about that. I think like I don't love driving, so meet me halfway. I'll drive, but I want a good companion. I don't want to sit here in silence while you catch up on some meme that you saw online.
Yeah.
So yeah, just bringing that out. Good boundaries with screens. I mean, I think this big idea really applies to all the little things that we're going to talk about over the next few minutes.
Yeah. Don't some of those habits kind of creep in? They may not be there at first, but they can creep in quickly.
1,000%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially with screens. I'm in a transitional season right now. My firstborn daughter just graduated high school. Both my girls have jobs. So like they're more occupied with their own stuff than they ever have been in my years as a parent.
Yeah.
And I found out how quickly it's like, okay, I'm home from work. Anyone need help? No. So I'll grab a screen and I'll start watching a movie. And it was just shocking to me just a couple weeks ago. Like, wow, I've like really got into this habit. Like come home from work, put on stretchy pants, grab tablet, zone out. And, you know, screens are so brilliant at grasping our attention.
Yeah,
So,
they are.
I think that's a really healthy thing to ask your partner. Like, how do you feel about my relationship with my phone?
That's a great
Does
question.
it bother you? Are you cool with it? Is it frustrating you? Are you kind of grinding your teeth when I crash on the couch and grab a tablet instead of investing good conversational time in with you? So yeah, put that on the top of the list for conversational topics at your next date night. How do you feel about my relationship with screens?
Mike, do you think that's because we take the people around us? It might not even be a spouse, but in this case, let's say it is our spouse. Do you think that's because we take them for granted sometimes?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a direct way to put it. I actually think it's not as conscious as that. I honestly think that the people who have made the smartphones that sit in our pockets are so brilliant. They've thought so detailed and intentionally about how to get our attention and keep it, how to tap into that like dopamine anticipation that comes when you're scrolling, that I think, yeah, you might be right. It's taking our spouse for granted, but there's something just like biological about if you don't have a really intentional plan with this device, I can almost guarantee it will get your attention without you even knowing it.
Good comment, Wyatt. So in your book, Mike, you say that mutually agreed upon expectations are everything in a marriage. And I wonder how much couples are simply agreeing excitedly with one another about things because they're anticipating that wedding day, and then the marriage shows up. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's shocking, huh? How many hundreds, maybe 1,000 hours we put into the big day. How many thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for a singular day. And I would just want to ask a couple, like, God bless you, have an amazing wedding day. But maybe we could tithe off of your planning time and tithe that time towards like setting up our expectations. So before we dive in and just hope it's going to work out because I love you and you love me, like, what do you expect with our budget? What do you expect when it comes to chores at home? How did you grow up? Like, how much work did your mom do when she was at home and your dad? And what do you think about that? What about our first Christmas together? How about children? What are you interested in? Just understanding each other in that deep way. I have a hunch no one looks back. Maybe Wyatt can jump in. No one looks back like 2 years into marriage or 5 or 23 in my case and says, you know what? We talked about too many things before we got married. But a lot of people are saying, oh, wow, I didn't even think to talk about that. And here we are having the same argument one more time. So, yeah, I think those pre-marriage conversations are really worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, Mike, me and my wife, we were actually together a long time before we got married. At least I think 6.5 years is a pretty long time compared to some people. And I would say that still left us not knowing things about each other when we got married. I mean, we started to learn new things about each other right away. So it does take time and intentionality to get to know somebody. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And I would say we want to be honest, too. In the Greek New Testament, you probably didn't think I was going to talk about the Greek New Testament right now.
You're blindsiding both of us.
There's 2 different words for to know something. One is to know it like in your head, and the second is to know it from experience. So if I pulled out my phone and it said, "Oh, it's 81 degrees out right now," I know it in my head. But if I step outside my church office into the sunshine, I know it by experience.
Right.
So as much as I appreciate pre-marriage counseling, and I think that's healthy, we should give couples a lot of grace to say, hey, there's a good percentage of this. Like, we want to put the tools in your toolbox, but you have to experience it first, then course correct, then have the conversation. So don't set yourself up with like this perfectionistic mindset that if we just do all these conversations and talk about all these things and have all these mutual expectations, it's going to be perfect and heaven will come to earth right here in our living room.
Yeah, I know you have a question for Mike, and if you want to text it over, please do. Maybe it's something you've already heard or a question you have. We're talking about his new book, Newly Wed, a Christian Guide for Loving Year One. We're going to take a break, but when I come back, I'm going to ask Mike about when you have your first fight. Or maybe you have the same fight over and over again. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Bill needs a minute. He needs a minute. Bill needs a minute. He'll be right back. Bill needs a minute. He needs a minute. Bill needs a minute. He'll be right back. You don't need to know why Bill needs a minute. None of your business. He'll be right back. You look in the studio, but Bill isn't in it. 'Cause Bill took a minute. He'll be right back.
We carry each other's burdens. Please know you can bring us your prayer concerns and we will pray. Share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio team by texting or calling 877-933-2484 or share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio staff and listeners at myfaithradio.com.
Bill took a minute and now he's back.
Pastor Mike Novotny is my guest. You know him from Time of Grace, and we're talking about his new book, Newly Wed, a Christian Guide for Loving Year One. So let's say we have that first fight, and how did it go? Did you handle it well? How'd your spouse do? Did your marriage feel stronger after the argument than it did before? Or do you just wish that you never had it? Where do we take this discussion on fighting?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bill. Fights are going to happen. It doesn't mean you married the wrong person, even though you might think that at a few moments in the midst of the disagreements. Conflict can really be a gift to a marriage. It's a chance to understand your spouse's heart, their priorities, to figure out how you're different, and to build a greater unity. I think, though, there's a way that fighting can go really bad. What did James say in James chapter 4? What causes fights and quarrels among you? Like you get aggressive and you kill because you don't get what you want. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes fighting can blow up a relationship. Maybe some listeners grew up in a home like that or have been in a relationship like that. So it's a really high risk, high reward kind of thing. It's not a problem in and of itself, but how we approach it, how we communicate through it, that's the big question we all have to answer.
Mm-hmm. I heard Dr. John Gottman say that the way marriages stay together is not so much the conflict, because everyone's going to have it, but the way in which it's brought up. And you talk about in your book, you had a hard conversation with your wife, Kim, and you brought it up at the worst time during a week when she was completely overwhelmed with problems. So talk about how important timing is.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. As a pastor, I know that. I preach sermons every single Sunday that are worthy of great critique. There's things I could have said better. There's things I could have said differently. There's things I should have said that I forgot. There's times I rambled and meandered when I should have landed the plane and said amen. But if you try to give me some of that feedback right after church is over, when I'm adrenaline crashing and I'm exhausted, I just want to say, oh, I love you. I don't want to be defensive, but this is not right. This is not the right time. Give me a day just to like recalibrate, refresh, and I'll have ears to hear the thing that you want to say to me. So I think there's a really humble way, if something's frustrating you in your relationship, to put it in your spouse's court and say, hey, there's something I really want to talk about, and it's kind of serious, but is now a good time, or maybe tomorrow morning or later this week? Just so you get their buy-in and permission. You're showing respect, honor, humility. You're not just coming out with guns blazing because you're frustrated. And I think that kind of sets you down a good path to communicate with those things that are going to lead to success.
Mm-hmm. I love in your book, Mike, you talk about the 10 commandments of communication. Let me just rattle off 4 here, and I'm going to let you comment then. You shall not try to win. You shall repeat your spouse's point. You shall not interrupt. You shall stick to the subject. I'm going to pause there and let you comment on that. It's really good stuff.
When I was a kid, my pastor taught me that the first commandment in the Bible is first for a reason. He said, if you don't have any other gods, if you keep the first commandment, you're going to keep all the rest of the commandments. Because if independence isn't your God, you're going to honor your parents and those in authority instead of rebelling against them and disobeying. If God is your only God, then you're not going to idolize money and steal to get it. So he kind of taught me, if you get the first one right, you get the rest of them right. And I thought of that when I wrote these 10 commandments of communication. The first one, I'll say it again, you shall not try to win. Whenever I approach a disagreement with my spouse, and really in the back of my mind, the goal isn't unity, the goal isn't understanding. I just need to show her, I'm right, you're not, I'm good, you're bad. I'm a little bit like Jesus, you're not, so you repent, change your mind, produce the fruit of repentance, and do what I want. It's crass to say it that way, but I think in a lot of conversations, that is where we end up. I want this, you want that, and we're both trying to win, and we get really stuck. And once you break that commandment, there's this whole cascading effect where I'm going to interrupt you. No, that's not how it happened. I'm going to use those terrible words, always and never. You always do that. You never say that. I'm not going to really listen to you and repeat what you're trying to tell me because I ain't got time for that, and I don't need to hear that because now it's my turn to try to dominate the discussion. So if you can just, if you're frustrated especially, and just say, God, help me not try to win. Help me to communicate what I feel with gentleness, honesty, and respect. Help me, as the Bible says, to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Help me seek first to understand before I insist on being understood. If I'm just going into those conversations, having this constant background prayer with the Holy Spirit, I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to win. I think you'll end up keeping a lot of the rest of the commandments that are on this list.
Mm-hmm. And how important, Mike, is it when the spouse feels understood? What a gift that is.
Man, I still 23 years later underestimate the power of that gift. Even in all kinds of relationships, if someone's frustrated with me as their pastor at church, I don't always have to think they're right or that the critique is 100% fair. But just when I have the humility to really listen and say, so what I hear you saying is, and when I said frustrated you because that's not half the battle. That's like 84% of the battle. So yeah, just having that humility, God, help me not be a defensive spouse. You're going to show that love and respect that's going to build connection, and it's going to win your partner over faster than you think.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the whole design of God bringing two people together. This is his idea, and it's his love for this couple, and it's a covenant. Aren't you fighting for each other versus against each other?
Yeah. It is so profound to me that what Jesus said in Matthew 19 is that God himself, the God of the universe, is the very one that brings two spouses together. He's not like some old watchmaker who wound up the institution of marriage back with Adam and Eve and just let it run. No, every time a couple is joined together, God is the one that makes the two one. You remember when the Pharisees asked Jesus about his feelings on divorce, and his answer was, those whom God has joined together, let no one separate. So that's a profound thought to me. It's not just me and Kim trying to make this work. God, who gives grace and strength and endurance, who teaches us to be patient and kind and humble, who enables us to forgive when we've been sinned against and to ask for forgiveness when we need it. That God is not like up on a throne somewhere, like distant from my marriage. He's right in the midst of it because he's the one that brought me and Kim to each other. And every married couple can say that about their wedded union too.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Pastor Lewis Smeads that said, my wife has been married to 5 different men, all of them me. And so this first year, Mike, that you talk about is really a big deal. It's a big critical year. And there's going to be times where spouses are already driving each other crazy. And you go, wait a minute, you're in year 1. How can that happen? Say more about that.
Yes. I might be misquoting the sainted Tim Keller, who said marriage is waking up every day next to a stranger.
Uh-huh.
Like who is this person? I think you discover so much about yourself and so much about your spouse. It's pretty easy to be a nice pastor because I only have to be nice for about an hour. Like if you and I have some kind of tension, we just got to grit and get our way through it for
Yeah.
about 60 minutes, and you'll go home and I'll see you in 7 days.
Right.
But when you're married, I mean, your spouse sees the best of you and the worst of you, and you can't hide your flaws, the cracks in your faith from that person. So it's crazy to think that the human that I love the most on this earth is also the human that I will sin against the most.
Say more about that.
Yeah. I mean, just quantity of time.
Right.
She's going to spend, I'm 40. I was 22 and a half when I got married, and I'm 45 and a half now, which means I just passed the halfway mark of having lived with my wife more than my mother. So she just has simply just had more hours
Yeah.
to see the best and the worst of me. And I mean, there's such emotional conversations we have about how are we going to spend the limited money that we have? What about intimacy and connection?
Yeah.
How many kids are we going to have? How are we going to raise these kids? What are we going to do at the tougher moments of life? So those moments of pressure that sometimes bring out our impatience, our anxiety, our fear. Man, what a miracle it is when day after day we come home to the same spouse, willing to forgive, willing to love, willing to work on it. Because it's not an easy journey to love someone. And that's really why the Apostle Paul said it's a glimpse of this unconditional, enduring love that God has for all of us.
Yeah. In that first year, Mike, was your wife Kim trying to fix you? Because you're not fixable, are you?
I think we didn't use the F word that directly, but
Okay.
I have a hunch. Subconsciously, we were both trying to do that all the time.
Yeah, that's very counterproductive, isn't it?
Oh, it so is. Yeah, we might talk about this a little bit later on, but for us, the fight we would have every like 90 days was about intimacy. Actually, 7 years into our marriage, have you ever heard of the 7-year itch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So 7 years in, 2 young kids, we honestly would, and Kim said I could share this with you. Just the same argument would happen every 90 days. And we were just on different places with it. And we couldn't find unity and connection. We actually reached out for some professional counseling. And I think kind of behind it was we both thought we were right. We were both trying to fix the other person. We weren't giving much. And it just became this little like thorn in an otherwise really beautiful marriage. We shared the same faith. We loved our kids. We loved each other. We had fun with each other. So yeah, those moments where like it might be intimacy, it might be in-laws, it might be finances, but you're probably going to run into something that feels bigger than you, where you need outside help, and you really need to humble yourself in prayer and say, God, forgive me. Give me the mindset of Jesus Christ, who did not come to be served, but to serve. Help me to put my faith into practice in this issue, because I probably need my faith right now more than in anything else. So yeah, it's a roller coaster journey. It's worth it, and God blesses it. But there's going to be those moments where, like me and Kim, you're going to be grasping for help and looking for all the resources that God can give.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a break and come right back. Pastor Mike Novotny is my guest. His brand new book is called Newly Wed, A Christian Guide for Loving Your One. But trust me, this book is amazing, and it would cross many decades of marriage. But I bet you have someone in your world that that's been gotten married in the last year. This would be an outstanding gift for them, and I know you will enjoy the read as well. If you have a question or comment, the text line is open, 877-933-2484. We'll be back in a couple minutes. My guest today is Pastor Mike Novotny. We're talking about his new book called Newly Wed, A Christian Guide for Loving Year One. But like Wyatt and I were just talking, this book is for really any couple that wants to look over their lives and their marriages. And Mike, I'm just looking at chapter 6, and you talk about in your book when conversations feel shallow, and you're talking to your spouse and you realize it's really kind of harder than you think. And you go on to say that many of us, while learning to read and write, never learned how to talk.
Yes. It is amazing to me how hard conversations feel in the digital age. I don't know if the screens and the scrolling have kind of messed with our basic human interaction. Once you don't stand in the grocery store checkout line, or DoorDash is dropping off things, so you never have to talk to a waitress. Maybe we've just lost our sharpness when it comes to conversation, but it feels like it's getting harder for a lot of people to have a basic, healthy conversation. So yeah, in chapter 6, I kind of lay out what I think is a great recipe. I found that whenever I'm talking to anyone, whether it's my spouse, my kids, someone who walks through the doors of church, if they can check 4 boxes, I almost always walk away thinking, I really like that person. And the 4 boxes are simply me, you, good, and bad. So me, I'm gonna talk about myself. If you, Bill, ask me, hey Mike, how you doing? Good. Well, how was your week? Fine. You're gonna say, no, Mike is so awkward. Like, no, I have to talk about me. I have to be able to open up because I think you're asking because you want to know about me and you care.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me and I go on and 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 on, and you're trying to like hit the commercial break, we'll be back with more of Mike talking on. Like that's going to be overwhelming and exhausting.
Yeah.
You don't want a monologue, like fire hose of words. So I have to talk and I have to listen. I have to open up a little bit, and then I have to ask you questions. Hey, tell me more about that, or digging a little bit beneath the surface. And then I found this, especially in small group Bible studies, the good and the bad. Some people are just talking about, well, this is great, and this is great, and this is great, and you feel like you can never get close to them because they haven't opened up and been vulnerable with you. On the other hand, if someone is only vulnerable, well, this is struggling, and I'm overwhelmed with this, and I feel anxious about this, it almost feels like a counseling session. And you want to say, oh, but hey, God is still good, and Jesus is still loving, and he's still on his throne, and your life is better than that. But if we put all 4 of those things together and avoid the extremes, if I have a conversation with my wife and I'm opening up about my day, and then I have the humility to ask about hers, and I go to those emotional high and lows, the best part of my day, and the part that frustrated me, or the things that I'm afraid of at work or with our kids, and she does the same thing in return, man, we leave those conversations feeling really close and united. So picture those 4 boxes kind of floating above you as you're having a talk with your partner or your friend, me, you, good, bad. And if you can check all 4, I have a hunch you're going to walk away and say, that was a good talk.
I like that. All right, Wyatt, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Because you had your year 1 of marriage a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys divide up chores?
Oof, this was actually one of the concerns that my wife Haley had, because my dad works very hard, owns a business, and my mom was homeschooling me and my brother, stayed at home and did a lot of the chores around the house on the inside. And Haley was the opposite, which Mike kind of alluded to in your marriage, Mike, earlier. And so Haley's expectation was that we were both going to do stuff, in the house, outside of the house. And so that was something I had to get used to. But no, we've actually had some very healthy conversations about what the expectations are, being willing to step in and help and just do it without being asked, whether it's the dishes, cleaning the bathroom, mowing the yard. I mean, we certainly have our things where, okay, I'm going to take care of this and she's going to take care of that. But on some of the other stuff, we just try to do it without asking or being told to do it. And it's worked very well, but something we could be better about. And I think the biggest key for us has been communication. Communicating through and talking through things has helped us out a ton in this area.
And Mike, you say this is a big deal to have a set apart a day or a long date to have the chore chat.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, something that strikes me is like the classic division of labor between husbands and wives, and this is certainly a stereotype that doesn't apply to everyone. But like when I got married, Kim said, "How about you take like the cars and the outside yard work and the finances, and I'll take like the cooking and the cleaning and the scheduling."
Mm-hmm.
That seemed kind of fair. You got 3 big things. I got 3 big things. But what we came to quickly realize is it takes me like 55 minutes to cut the grass. But when it comes to like grocery shopping and cooking for all the meals of the week, that's like,
you got a bargain.
We both did one thing. This
right.
is an even chore.
That's funny.
So yeah, you really have to pay attention to some of the specifics. I want to be careful about not being too overly competitive. Well, I do more than you do. That can blow up on you quickly. But just to raise awareness, like, yeah, I wouldn't want my wife to bear 80% of the burden. So I'm just like sitting there scrolling or doing what I want, going out with friends. We came into this as a partnership. So Kim and I tend to think of our marriage in 3 kind of categories: the friends, the partners, and the lovers. So we're having fun together as friends. Are we good partners with chores, with raising our children and intimacy? Are we good lovers together?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the second box of, man, if we can have a nice even division of labor that feels fair to both of us. And then I so love what Wyatt said. If you can act without being asked and kind of cross over into your spouse's official chore and just do it because you love them, man, that'll push you into category 3 for some nice connection, because your spouse will feel very close to you and very grateful for you if you're willing to act without being asked.
Mm-hmm. Mike, talk about sex and money.
All right. What is it time for a commercial break yet?
Yeah, we've got 40 seconds. I'm just kidding. No, we still have 5 minutes till the break.
Oh, the thing I alluded before of just the struggles that Kim and I had. I think what I did not understand was what every sex therapist knows, that generally in a relationship, there's someone with what they call spontaneous desire, and then a partner that has what they call responsive desire. 80% of the time, it's the husband that has spontaneous desire and the wife with responsive desire, but not always. What does that mean? It means that one person just spontaneously desires to be intimate. A minute ago, I wasn't thinking about sex, but now I saw you. You're beautiful. The thought popped into my mind. Boom, like I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
A person with responsive desire, like if you went up to them and just like wrapped your arms around them while they're cooking dinner, they're not going to respond with that same spontaneous spark, like, oh, now I'm suddenly interested in 4.2 seconds. They really have to be in the right frame of mind. They have to have like the clutter of their own kind of headspace cleaned up a little bit so that their body can respond in a beautiful way. It doesn't mean they don't like sex or they're not interested. It's just that they're not as interested like from the jump. And so, where it kind of went south for me and Kim was, I would be like interested in being intimate with her. And I felt like she never felt the same way. And I internalized that as like, wow, I'm really like interested in her and she's not interested in me. And I felt like disrespected, undesirable, kind of unlovable in that physical sense. And, by the grace of God, we're in an amazing spot now. And I'm really happy with that part of our marriage. But that took us a lot of years to figure out, where I had to realize, like, just like springing in, like the request for intimacy on Kim is just not working for me. And pouting when she says no does not make her more attracted to me. So we had to communicate, like, hey, what are your expectations? How much do you expect me to initiate or you to initiate? And just kind of sit down and say, how much sex like feels right to you? That might seem like kind of clinical and cold, but just once again, those mutually agreed upon expectations saved us from expecting too much of each other, especially with the way that we were wired by God's own design.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about money, because I loved in your book when you went up against Grandma Novotny, and you sort of pushed back on your own grandma. And I thought, boy, there's some boldness, Mike.
Well, she's in heaven now. She's not mad about it. So
I know. I figured she's in heaven.
Yeah, my grandma Novotny always said, it's just money. The pigs don't even eat it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, no, Grandma, like money
means something.
Money has some power to it. It's how we pay for our wedding. It's how we pay the rent. It's the way that we date each other when we go out to eat. So yeah, money's one of those emotional things. It might feel like a piece of paper with some ink on it, but it actually represents to a lot of us security or status or pleasure or comfort. It's probably very connected to the way that you were raised.
Yeah.
Did your parents spend money freely and you were always behind? So now you really have a tight budget because you want to control it. Or was everything so controlled you never had fun and lived and life's too short, so now you want to spend every dollar you get on your tax return? So, talking that out, and as I say in the book, talking about your own theology of money.
Yeah.
Like, what do I believe about this deep down? What does God have to do with this? Sometimes our behaviors come out of those beliefs, and your spouse should really know like your deep-seated beliefs about money. Do you believe like you have to tithe back to the church? Do you believe that giving financially to the poor is a Christian's responsibility? Do you believe that all of this is from God and he just loaned it to you, but he really owns every dollar and cent? So just kind of unearthing those things out of your heart so your spouse can know like where you're coming from when you have these conversations is a really fantastic thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And then talk about, is it important in that year one to establish a budget?
The B word.
The B word, yep.
Yes. I mean, what is a budget besides mutually agreed upon expectations put on paper? That is unless you created the budget while your spouse was sleeping and you forged their signature.
Right.
Yeah, but that's really what it is. Like, let's say I'm more interested in finances. I'm going to do the first draft, and I'm going to see, like, is this what you're expecting? Or do you think we're going to save less and spend more, or spend less and save more? So I think that's all that's doing. It's just making official, like, what are my boundaries for spending so I don't anger you or lose your trust or feel like I've gone too far? So yeah, money's such a powerful thing. So I love that idea, especially in year one, getting on the same page with a good old classic budget.
What about if you have enough budget for eating out once a month, and then one of the spouses say, "That's not enough. I want to eat out every week."
Welcome to the world of compromise, Bill.
Yeah.
That's where you have to say, okay, I'm not against that. If we did that, what would we not do?
Okay.
You can't just add and add and add and add and just hope like the money's going to pop into our life somewhere. God expects us to be good managers and good stewards of the finances that he's given to us. So yeah, we could have that conversation. Maybe I could flex there, but what would we not do? And then you kind of have to see what your priorities are, where you're going to give, where you're going to take, and you're probably going to meet in the middle, hopefully in a way that makes both of you happy.
Mike, you say in your book, money is a powerful tool in the right hands. I pray that you and your spouse can join hands and with united hearts and a good budget, leverage every dollar for God's glory and your marriage's good. Well said, Mike Novotny. We're going to take a little break and come right back. Mike's new book is called Newly Wed, a Christian Guide for Loving Year One. We'll be right back. Welcome is a word said universally all over the world. Every language on the planet has their own way of making a friendly greeting. At Faith Radio, when we welcome, we really mean it. Learn more about us by requesting a free welcome pack gift. Text the word welcome to 877-933-2484 or visit myfaithradio.com to request your welcome pack today. And a warm welcome to you. Pastor Mike Novotny is my guest. His book is called Newly Wed, a Christian Guide for Loving Year One. So, Mike, let's talk about in-laws.
Let's. I had a chance before I wrote this book. Oops, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just talking to Wyatt because his year one was a year and a half ago. And I said, did you guys have much discussion about in-laws? He said, not before marriage, but after.
And you learn from experience very quickly how involved in-laws are going to be,
right.
What the expectation should be, whether it's holiday stuff, if they're stopping by. I'm sure, Mike, you would agree this is probably a conversation every couple should have.
Yeah, I interviewed 20 newlyweds from our church before I wrote this book. And the number one thing that came up of like, this really surprised us was the topic of in-laws. And I got to say, I'm not an in-law, or I should say I'm a son-in-law, but not a father-in-law. But it strikes me when I just step back and think about it, it must be really difficult to raise a child that you love more than almost anything in this world, and then like give up your like authoritative voice in their life for this guy that they just met like 3 years ago on Match.com. It just, I can understand why I'd be like, no, but I know her and I love her and I cried with her and I prayed with her for 20, 25, 30 years. And now you're going to come in and be the guy. So it kind of gives me some understanding. I have a hunch your spouse's parents love your spouse so deeply, and they've loved your spouse longer than you have. So following kind of the biblical guidance is not an easy thing. So I really think this is a conversation that has to be had, and as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm. What about looking in year one at other friends of yours who are married, and maybe their situation just is a little bit better, and all of a sudden I'm already thinking to myself, do I have it as good as I could have it? And maybe we need to start striving because I'm doing some comparison here.
Oh, man. I call that OCD, obsessive comparison disorder.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially in our digital world, when you can see kind of, you're comparing the highlights of other people's relationships to the actual relationship that you have, which is death. It's not real. It's fictional. They fight as much as you do. People that look beautiful on pictures get divorced. Like, I think if you're really struggling with that, you know, they say if the grass looks greener, water your own grass.
Mm-hmm.
I think just limiting your screen time and investing as much as you can in face-to-face time is going to be worth its weight in gold. And I actually say that in two senses. I mean, investing face-to-face time with your spouse so that you can, work on some of the things that we're talking about. But also what I've learned from hosting small group Bible studies with Kim is that you find out really quickly, oh, that cute couple from church, they got some stuff going on too. If they sit down in your living room and ask for prayers and share the highs and lows from their week, you'll realize like, whoa, okay, wow, maybe we're not as bad as I thought. Maybe we're just a normal couple. So that face-to-face time with other couples and with your own spouse, man, especially in this digital age, you just have to fight for it, prioritize it, and you'll be so blessed if you actually do it.
Mike, when I look through the Bible, I don't really see anything that talks about dating your spouse. How important is date night?
Oh, yeah, I do admit at the end of the book, it is optional. But for me and Kim, it has been so life-giving. I said before, friends, partners, lovers is kind of our recipe for a great marriage. And when we plan a date, we have fun together. We can talk through things with kids and schedules together. We have time to physically connect most of the time. And we build it, prioritize it, and protect it. In fact, for years, even our families, our friends, even our church family has known that Friday night is Mike and Kim's date night. And if you're like dying or you crashed your car and you're like freezing out in the field, please call us. But if you're not, we'll see you on Saturday.
Right.
So that's just precious time to us. It's protected time. And, for us, we've kind of learned if we've had a rough week, if we weren't communicating well, if we were impatient, like we can't go more than 7 days without this deep, romantic, intentional get out of the house time. So, yep, you don't have to. It's not a commandment on God's list in Exodus chapter 20. But if I was going to give advice to my daughters on their wedding day, it would be pick a date night, prioritize it, protect it, and maybe you're going to experience what Kim and I have, that it just breathes life into your marriage week after week after week.
Mm-hmm. Mike, how important is it to act without being asked?
I work for this media ministry called Time of Grace, which means we put out devotions and videos and social media posts and sermons by the thousands. I have rarely posted anything that's been crazy popular except one thing, Bill. I've had like one or two truly viral posts in my entire ministry, and one of them was an Instagram post called Act Without Being Asked. And what we found was that so many wives, especially on the thread, were saying, oh, if my husband would just, if he would just listen carefully enough, because I'm dropping all these hints. And if he wouldn't like ask me, what do you want me to do right now? But he would just anticipate a little bit with the knowledge that he has. I love him, but I would love him even more. So I keep a little notes file on my phone. And whenever Kim mentions something, because I'm a forgetful guy, I try to pull up my phone at the closest appropriate time, and I just write myself a little note. Ooh, Kim says she'd like this for our anniversary. Or Kim is really frustrated about this. Or this is a question Kim needs answered. Or this is a chore that's been really frustrating for her. And what I found is that I don't have to ask her, like, what would make you happy? I have a list in my pocket, and I can pull it out when I have a free moment and just fill up her love cup and make her realize I pay attention to her, I care about her, I want to serve her, because I know Jesus, who calls himself the groom who first served me and his Christian church as his bride. So act without being asked. That's a great recipe for a great marriage.
Yeah. So if people go through your book and they're just getting ready for their first year or they're in it, you can pretty much be certain that you're going to have not only incredible conversations and discoveries with one another, but you might just end up having that first year to exceed all of your expectations for a great, amazing start to your marriage.
I work with a pastor named Michael, and I asked him, what was the best year of your marriage, Michael? And he said, year 23. I said, really? How long have you been married? And he said, 23 years. So yeah. I think that's what I want. I hope this book helps people have a great first year and just sets them up to have an even better second year and third year and 10th year and 50th year, and that God would bless them with a little glimpse of heaven.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book, and thank you so much for talking about it. Much of what we talked about is in the book, but there's so much more, and Mike goes with such depth and vulnerability. You will love this book. So, Mike, thank you once again for being on.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
You bet. Pastor Mike Novotny has been my guest. That wraps up our show for the day and for the week. Thank you for supporting Faith Radio. See you next week. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.